Hey everyone, welcome back to Prime Time. Dr. Kuntz here as always, and we're going to go over a kind of heavy topic today, but we're going to tap into it the best we can. It's for those of you who are feeling old and broken and you're not sure what you can do anymore. I understand, even in my, we'll call it 10 to 15 year progression from working out, having gone through some trials and tribulations, life in general becomes much more than just musculoskeletal. What I mean by that is it becomes much more than just injuries you occur. Those alone can be challenging in terms of really the psyche component. You know, because I've had a couple times where I've tweaked my back or my shoulder. You know, I played baseball up until the time I was 18, never really was taught how to throw correctly, and I know that there's been some labral damage on my right side. I remember my velocity going down in my senior year. I had a skiing accident in my left shoulder, etc. And so as you continue to work out over the course of years, yeah, you feel a little bit more banged up to some extent, even when you're trying to do it the best you can. I can tell you right now, I know for me personally, I've only been probably really properly, correctly working for maybe 5 years out of the 15 or so. However, it's even more than that. Life and just stress as we get older becomes really challenging. The psyche component of feeling old and broken, I think, again, it's the accumulation of stressors, not just the injuries. And the accumulation of fatigue, I think, eventually just builds up on us. There can be some level of a wannabe breaking point where it's like, man, just how much harder do I keep fighting? You know, I think we all kind of run into that at some point. Like, how much harder do I really need to keep fighting to stay active, to be who I really am? The flame goes through tornadoes, it goes through big hurricanes, it gets challenged. And sometimes instead of that big flame, when everything was feeling sky high, and for a lot of us things were feeling great, felt invulnerable. When you're 18, big flame of who we are to keep working out hard and feel great. Yeah, as you get older, that will get absolutely challenged. And I've seen it with a lot of people I've worked out over the years, just those who've kind of fallen off. It's kind of like the movie Avatar. Most of you should have seen this movie right now, so I don't think I'm spoiling it. An Endgame where all of a sudden like half the people disappear. That's kind of like the mentality I think I see as I continue to persevere and work out hard and battle through life, because man, life can be tough sometimes. But keep battling, keep staying in the gym, keep working out, and all of a sudden you look around you and half the people that you knew were kind of by your side, and maybe not lifting partners, but there was kind of this aura between you and your friends. They were continuing to strive forwards, and people getting knocked out left and right. Maybe it is injuries, maybe it's just life, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a business that went sideways. And all these accumulations of tough life stressors add into the feeling, to the perception of feeling old and broken. So, all right, let's say you're 45, maybe you've gone through a divorce, you've had, let's just say, for example, hip pain and knee pain, even back pain that's coming up, and you're trying to work out, but you're getting to a point where you're like, well, what the hell, is this even worth it? Am I just hurting myself by trying to go to the gym anymore? Because this feels ridiculous in terms of all the crap that you've got to put up with. Maybe you're icing yourself all the time, you're not getting the workouts in that you used to, maybe your even diet's kind of gone downhill, and you've had some x-rays and maybe an MRI, and you're kind of seeing the changes in arthritis, maybe that low back pain's turned into a bulging disc. You see what's purportedly told as grade 3 osteoarthritis in your hip, and you're kind of wondering, what the hell is this even working? I'm not that same 20-year-old that I used to be that, well, it was really easy back then to continue to work out. So from my advice to you, because we work with a lot of people that are actually pretty similar to that, I can tell you right now, I'm sure at some point in my 40s or 50s, that thought will happen. I think it's actually pretty normal. I think it's good for you to hear that it's pretty normal for a lot of people to hear that and to say that. But I think it starts with, go find a specialist. I think it comes back to, and I'm not even gonna just say physical therapy at this point, I'm gonna say someone who can really sit down, have a great discussion with you, and learn more about your injuries, because I think the impact and the trauma or whatever started those injuries gives us a little insight as to the quality of your movement patterns and really how you've been training. Your training can be only off in terms of the idealistic setup. If it's only off by just 2 degrees, you got to think about kind of the analogy of shooting towards the moon. And let's say the moon resembles being 50 years old and being incredibly healthy and feeling great. But let's say just because over the years of your training methods and they've been a little off, they're not quite right, maybe some old school patterns of thought, maybe just movements that aren't quite right for your body or the form that's not right for your body, you're off just a couple degrees. Well, guess what? A couple of those degrees off as you initially set off on your journey from the Earth to the moon, you could be off hundreds of thousands of miles. And those hundreds of thousands of miles equate to those pains that you're feeling, most likely, including your hip, your back, your knee, what have you. And maybe even sometimes we just get unlucky and there's trauma. Maybe you have a car accident. Maybe you had yourself a skiing injury or something like that. So that too is thrown in there on your journey. And now you're even further, hundreds of thousands of miles off, and you've accumulated more pain. So let's take at that moment you're 45 or 50. And now instead of aiming at the moon, you're hundreds of thousands of miles off. Now to kind of get back on track, it's kind of like, let's start from square one and let's just learn about what your journey's been like. So that's where, again, learning about your injuries, learning about what's happened, learning about how you've trained all matters. And then it really matters to go into a really great full body movement assessment. Because I've learned over the course of my years how ridiculously everything is kind of conjoined, and the old stupid saying, the knee bone connected to the hip bone, it's so true, man. It's so true, the different types of slings and myofascial chains and all these connections from joint to joint that even have a relationship further down the road, from left ankle to right shoulder. You know, it can really be that connected, even depending on the type of movement you have. So it starts with really assessing the whole body and understanding your impairments. Where are your weakest links and what are we doing to clean those up? I think it's as simple as that. Stop perpetuating the pain. Have an open mind that, hey, we are going to really slow things down. We're going to really address those movement patterns that you had at the gym that might have been worsening your pain. We're going to really clean those up, slow it down. And we need to reinitiate with a plan that will get you back on track. So a lot of times, again, you have to have that open mind and that willingness to slow down on all those exercises that were making things worse, and be open-minded about receiving new exercises in a new way, new shape. And you might be upset in the sense that, man, I used to always do squats at 205. Yeah, John, but look at the form that you were doing it. You were really hurting yourself by doing that form. So what I need for you is to be open-minded that you're going to go down into a squat. In fact, you're not even going to do 90 degrees because you don't have the mobility to do that. You're going to go to 45 degrees and you're going to just do 3 sets of 20 high reps, slow pace. And you're going to have to start there because that's what your body's ready for. That's what your body's capable for. Now right there, that's a moment for that person to have a decision. If they can accept that in terms of that's what they need to get back toward the moon, great. If they can't accept that and that's just not who they are, they're rough and tough John and they've never only had to do air squats, well, that's a psychological barrier and that's okay, but they need to know that. And that's where some level of change fatigue can even play a role. If I'm asking you to change up this and that, maybe they just don't have the energy for that. Maybe they're just too tired from work, it's building up on them, they're stressed at home, finances are frustrating them as well, you see? So if there's just one more additional piece of energy that I'm adding in there that also has to change, that might be tough for them. So that's that kind of big elephant in the room I think is not talked about a lot, but really, what's our mentality in between the ears and how is that psyche going to help or hurt us when we're feeling old and broken, when we need to make changes in a decision. So if you can understand that you need to be patient, yes, maybe years worth of movements you were doing was harmful. If you can swallow that down, maybe you were mistold by someone, maybe you were mistold by, who knows, a PE trainer or PE teacher or a trainer that you worked with 5 years ago. If you're working with a specialist, you have to understand that you might have been mistold certain things in the past, and now we've got to break those habits down. And I find myself addressing that every day. Let's break down the bad habits, which, by the way, are incorporated in simple stuff like how are you sitting, how are you walking, heck, how do you bend down to grab that pen that you dropped. It's actually quite amazing to just see very fundamental movements and how they play out, because when you're working out, those movements will only be exacerbated or exposed, and therefore they can be more harmful because you're loading it usually with weight. So yes, if you're feeling old and broken, be open-minded. Be open-minded that you need to slow things down, see a specialist, and that you may be on a long journey, because now that you're hundreds and thousands away from the moon and you're gonna have to change direction, you're gonna have to go around the moon a few times before you can slow down and then sit on it. There will be a lot of energy used there to change inertia, which by the way is its own topic in itself. But anytime you change inertia, that's really hard for people. People are creatures of habit. We like to sit in the same seat in high school every day, even when we didn't have mandatory sitting. You like to sit in the same chair every day when you read your newspaper, when you look at your phone, and you hold it in the same way every time. So if you break inertia, that's work for the body, that's work for the brain. Your brain's really consumed about one thing, and that's saving energy, because that's all it knows. Only up until the last 200 years have we now had enough nutrition and food, and well, to the point that obesity is an epidemic. But the brain's not really caught up. So it might take, who knows, I'm not a master or understanding on evolution, but it might take thousands of years before our brain really catches up and understands, hey, movement quality actually really matters. So just think about that for a second. So yes, long story short, guys, be open-minded. Know that you're gonna have to change inertia. Know that you're gonna have to change up a lot of things and a lot of bad habits that will take a lot of energy, and that you're gonna have to really drop the weight with a lot of your exercises, probably learn a new exercise regimen. You're gonna have to learn how to regularly incorporate deload weeks or rest breaks in your workout programs. You're gonna have to alter workout programs. And understand too, you will almost always be on the fight of trying to continue to fight your weaknesses and your impairments. We just wanna minimize those impairments to the point that they're not causing pain. I think it's as simple as that. So for those of you that do feel old and broken, you've tried everything. Maybe you've tried physical therapy before, tried chiropractic use, maybe you're trying to hold off on surgery, maybe you're even contemplating stem cell use or PRP, and you're just lost. Maybe you've given it up. Feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to shoot me an email at chadk@pr1memovement.com. That's chadk@pr1memovement.com. I would love to just know about the scenario that you're in and how we could potentially help you as well. I know it's not easy by any means, and I know I can't save everyone, because sometimes you just can't save everyone, but I'd like to know that maybe 80 to 90% of those of you out there, we can at least give you some direction, and maybe it's not as bad as you actually think. That's the other conundrum. You're told by your doctor 20 years ago that back's about to go, you'll never be the same, you shouldn't work out anymore. Maybe we're gonna have to get it through that barrier, because maybe I'll disagree after I analyze you and say, you know what, it's actually not that bad. It's actually these muscles that are really tight that we need to loosen up. We just need to get over the fact that you've been fearful of this movement for 20 years. Do you see how that can be another psychological barrier that we've kind of talked about, that limits your ability to not feel old and broken? So I guess to kind of sum it up, a lot of this is in between the ears. You know, we've talked about breaking inertia, being open-minded, being told by the doctor that you should never do this again. A lot of this is in between the ears, and it does take a willingness, openness, and a mindset shift. In addition to, of course, the musculoskeletal mechanical things that need to happen to change to get your pain below the threshold. And that's really all we need to do. Find enough weaknesses, address those, to get to the point that your body can handle such a way to get the pain below the threshold so you just don't feel it. All right, easier said than done, I get it, but that's kind of the paradigm. All right, heavy topic. Feel free to chew through that and think about it. Listen to it again if you need to. My name is Dr. Chad Kuntz, and thank you so much for tuning in to Prime Time.